The forest was eerily silent that humid afternoon, the kind of silence that precedes something sinister. James and Robert, two inseparable friends since childhood, had decided to explore a trail they had found while camping near the town. The woods were dense with ancient trees whose canopies blocked the sunlight, leaving the ground cloaked in an unsettling twilight. "Are you sure it's safe to go this way?" Robert asked, adjusting his backpack. "Of course, man," James replied, always the more fearless one. "It's just a forest. What could possibly go wrong?" They pressed on, their footsteps muffled by the dry leaves covering the ground. The air smelled of damp earth and decaying vegetation. As they advanced, something caught James's eye. A rusty piece of metal protruding from the ground. "Hey, look at this," he said, kneeling to dig out the object. Robert moved closer, curious. After a few minutes of digging with their hands, they uncovered an old metal plaque with inscriptions almost worn away by time. An arrow pointed north, accompanied by words etched in archaic English. "The treasure awaits those brave enough to seek it." "Treasure?" Robert's eyes widened. "Do you think this is real?" "Only one way to find out," James said with an adventurous grin. Guided by the arrow, they followed the increasingly narrow trail. The atmosphere seemed to shift as they moved deeper, growing heavier, almost oppressive. The wind died down completely, and the only sounds were their own footsteps and quickened breathing. After an hour of trekking, they reached a clearing. At its center lay an old wooden chest partially buried in the ground. The iron fittings were rusted but still sturdy. "I can't believe it," Robert exclaimed. "We actually found a treasure." "Let's open it," James said excitedly. With some effort, they managed to lift the heavy lid. Inside, gemstones sparkled under the faint light filtering through the tree canopies. There were gold necklaces, ruby-encrusted rings, and ancient coins. "We're rich," Robert shouted, incredulous. But their euphoria was cut short by a chilling sound. The snapping of branches around the clearing. The two friends froze, their hearts racing wildly. "Did you hear that?" Robert asked, his voice trembling. Before James could answer, a thick fog began to form around them, enveloping everything in a supernatural mist. Spectral silhouettes emerged from the haze, figures dressed as pirates, their empty eyes glowing with ancient hatred. "Intruders!" A hoarse and menacing voice echoed through the clearing. The friends backed away, but the pirate spirits closed in, blocking any route of escape. "Return what does not belong to you," bellowed a spectral figure wearing a tricorn hat and wielding a gleaming sword. James tried to stay calm. "Run!" he shouted to Robert. They grabbed the chest with all their might and bolted back along the trail. The spirits followed, their voices blending into a macabre chorus that chilled the blood. The forest seemed to close in around them, the branches of trees transforming into claws trying to stop their escape. The fog blurred everything, making navigation difficult. "We're not going to make it," Robert cried, breathless. "Yes, we will," James replied with fierce determination. Finally, they spotted the edge of the forest. With one last effort, they crossed the tree line and collapsed onto the grassy ground. The spirits halted at the forest's boundary, as if unable to cross that threshold. The two friends looked at each other, still gasping for breath. The chest lay beside them, intact and gleaming with its precious contents. "I can't believe we made it," Robert said with a disbelieving smile. "Neither can I," James agreed, glancing back at the dark forest. "But I never want to go back there." They loaded the chest into the trunk of their car and drove away, leaving that cursed place behind. But as they distanced themselves, a disturbing thought crossed James's mind. What if the pirate spirits weren't so easily deterred? That night, when they arrived home, the atmosphere still felt charged with something inexplicable. The wind blew strangely, as if whispering dark secrets. In the distance, a sound resembling an eerie laugh echoed through the night. As they examined the contents of the chest under the soft light of the living room, they noticed something else besides the jewels. An old map with incomprehensible markings and ominous symbols. The words, "The price of greed is not paid just once," were written in a reddish ink as if serving as a warning. The house lights began to flicker. Robert ran to check the circuit breaker, but James realized something was wrong. The temperature plummeted abruptly, and a thin mist formed inside the room. "They followed us," James whispered. The spectral figure of the pirate with the tricorn hat appeared at the living room door, his hollow eyes now burning with a fierce glow. "You have brought the curse into your lives," the entity said in an icy voice. "Return the map and the treasure, or your souls will be taken forever." Without hesitation, James and Robert grabbed the map and chest, running out of the house. The entity followed, its sinister laughter echoing through the dark night. As they reached the forest's edge, the spirit seemed to yearn for something. In a desperate gesture, James hurled the chest and map toward the trees. The fog began to dissipate, and the spirit slowly vanished, leaving a deathly silence. "Do you think it's over?" Robert asked, still trembling. James shook his head, uncertain. "I don't think we'll ever be truly free." They returned home without the treasure, but with their lives intact. They knew that experience would haunt them forever. Some riches simply aren't worth the price they carry.